Hi, my name is Caron Leid, and I'm doing my doctorate in education. And for this course called Faculty Development, I have to discuss involving teachers with professional development. Research has shown that when teachers have self-directed professional development, it leads to higher student achievement and outcomes. So teachers that direct their own professional development leads to higher student achievement, and it is actually mandated. So the Common Core state standards, including recent curricular reforms, mandate educators to engage in instruction that facilitates all students in high-level learning. So to accomplish these objectives, educators must engage in professional development activities that involve them in meaningful, sustained inquiry. And how do you adopt an inquiry stance? Well, you examine the learner's thinking and learning. You use pre-assessments and formative assessments to gauge student understanding. And you learn to teach experimentally and based on specific situations. So using student knowledge to make changes in the student practice. So you involve the students in doing this. So there are 4 approaches that allow teachers to conceptualize professional development differently. The first one, and we're going to go into detail, this is just the high overview, but the first one is lesson study. The second one is teacher action research. The third one is cognitively guided instruction. And the fourth is instructional coaching. So now we're going to get into more detail about what lesson study is. So lesson study is an inquiry cycle that supports teachers to experiment, observe, and improve. So educators work together to study student learning. Schools become places where both learners and educators are passionate about learning. So a team of teachers collaborates to identify long-term goals and what subject and unit to investigate. And then the team then studies the standards and research and curricula around that subject. So then they try to anticipate student thinking and identify the data that they need to be collected during the session. The team then puts the selected lesson into action. One member teaches the lesson while the other members observe and record student thinking and learning. The team then reflects their work by meeting after the lesson to discuss the data. They also have an outside specialist to provide further discussion and reflect on what they learned as a whole during the entire cycle. This brings us to action research, which is the second one. So action research is a research methodology that is used to address and diagnose problems. So in the classroom, the teacher is the researcher and the learners are the study participants. So action research is a meaningful way for a teacher to investigate why learners perform the way that they do. So in action research, Kurt Lewin coined the term action research to describe a scenario where a researcher and a participant work together to solve a specific problem. And then Donald Shawn further developed this idea with the term reflective practitioner, which is a researcher who thinks systematically about their practice. So the teachers have taken both of these ideas into the classroom and to better serve their learners. So the basic structure of an action research cycle is as follows. So the teacher recognizes and wonders about a problem in the classroom. Then the teacher thinks about the reasons why learners are having issues. And the teacher then collects and analyzes the data and comes up with solutions to try, and the teacher then analyzes that solution. So again, of course, if the solution is not effective, the cycle then just starts again. Which brings us to cognitively guided instruction. So cognitively guided instruction is a student-centered method to teaching math. This method begins with your students with what they already know, and then builds on their natural number sense and intuitive approaches, then problem solving. So instead of a math program or curricula, cognitively guided instruction is a way of listening to learners and then asking the smart questions and engaging their thinking, all with the goal of discovering and expanding their mathematical understanding. To be guided by a student's cognition, the teacher must understand and respect the student's mathematical thinking. And of course, the teacher must also thoroughly understand mathematics that he or she is expecting to teach. This understanding of both the learner's thinking and content enables the teacher to differentiate instruction. Brings us to instructional coaching. The concept of instructional coaching started in the early 80s as a method of creating more intuitive and formative types of professional development in the kindergarten to grade 12 context. So instructional coaching is focused on supporting the learning, growth, and achievement of students and is linked to a school's improvement priorities. Student-centered or teaching-centered methods of coaching are strategically then chosen based on the individual teacher's needs and readiness context. So I was asked as part of this presentation to discuss what I actually have used in a teaching context, and I used to teach training and development at Sheridan College, and I have used action research when I saw that my students were struggling with certain concepts. So I noticed many of my students were struggling with learning how to write objectives, and this is the key component of training and development because well-written objectives are then used to evaluate the training and if the training was successful or not. So it's a key issue to writing objectives for this course. And so I noticed that no matter how many times I would explain objectives and how to write them, students were still struggling with that concept. So I broke the students into smaller groups, and then I just kept observing how they explained how to write objectives and what they were using as a measurement to a well-written objective. And then I saw where the gap was and then used that data to develop a stronger teaching and instruction method going forward. So after, I guess, performing action research, which I feel is the most easiest thing to implement because you can do it like alone and it doesn't take much money, it just takes time, and really putting that into your practice. So summary, all of these methods provide ambitious instruction as they in some form embody reflective practice methods with collaboration. These forms of professional development involve collaborative theoretical application and then application. They also provide methods of examination and revision. These methods are all continuous processes, just as any learning should be applied. These are the sources to my presentation, and thank you for listening.